Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahe Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahe. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om. May God protect us. May God nourish us. May we work together with energy and vigor. May our study be enlightening and not give rise to misunderstanding. Om, peace, peace, peace. Om Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsa Chanura Mardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadguru. I salute Krishna, the Guru of the universe, God, the son of Vasudeva, the destroyer of Kamsa and Chanura, the supreme bliss of Devaki. Welcome everyone. We are working on the Yoga of Knowledge, chapter number 2. So far we made it till verse number 49 last class. We'll try to summarize so that we can all be on the same page. So far Sri Krishna has in short explained the secrets of work to Arjuna in verse number 47 and 48. Do you remember what is the secret of work? What is karma yoga?
For the sake of itself.
For the sake of the self. Karma yoga is?
Yoga in action.
Karma yoga. Yoga in action. What is yoga? To yoga. Yeah, well, it's something more closely. Equilibrium. Oh, that's according to Patanjali. You don't want to go there. Let's make it simple. Yoga is to come back to yourself. The other day I gave a talk on the inner life, and I was somehow seduced by this language of the heart. And yoga means that, to come back to your heart. Your heart is where you are, where you live. Somehow we lost track of that direction, our home. Everything we do in order to come back to ourselves is yoga. Simple, in simple language. So in verse number 47, you have the right to work, Shri Krishna said, but not to the fruits thereof. Does everyone understand that? You have the right to work, but not to the fruits thereof. Attachment, expectations for the fruits of work must never be your motive in working. So if such is not your motive in working, what should be your motive?
The pleasure of work.
Work for work's sake. So, in order to get there for work's sake, there is a secret. And Shri Krishna unveils this secret. He says in verse number 48, abandoning attachment, remaining unconcerned as regards to success and failure. The secret is the evenness of mind. Evenness of mind is known as yoga here. The evenness of mind. Perform every action with your heart fixed on the Supreme Lord. So there is good attachment. What is that good attachment that is allowed? Attachment to God. Fix your mind on me. Place thy intellect in me. Then thou shalt no doubt live in me forever. What does that mean? In our hearts. Then, if you can't do that, by the practice of repeatedly withdrawing the mind from the objects of the senses to which it wanders, and trying to fix it on one thing. Come back. And the mind goes, wanders, starts wandering from one thing, jumping from one thing to another. You get the feeling that, where is God here? I thought I was surrendering myself. I thought I was doing everything for His sake. And suddenly I'm thinking about these worldly things. Is this real? Come back. Come back to your object of meditation. Thus it is spoken of. This is very important. It is spoken of in our scriptures regarding constant remembering as a means to liberation. Constant remembering as a means to liberation. It's very important. If you can remember your beloved, your God, your object of meditation, keep doing that and you'll be free. Life is more meaningful this way. We don't complain too much. We learn to surrender. We learn to accept. We learn to have the right attitude. We'll talk a lot about the attitude today, about attitude. And we learn to accept what we deserve and not what we want. Even by doing actions for my sake, thou shalt attain perfection. If thou art unable to do even these, then taking refuge in me, abandon the fruits of all actions, being self-controlled. Taking refuge in me, meaning if you can't remember Him all the time, sometimes we use symbols, pictures, a ring, anything that can remind you. But if you can't do that, then close your eyes and surrender to Him. Whether it has a form or a name, doesn't matter. You all know. Equanimity is called yoga, evenness of mind. The process of karma yoga is a learning process. You keep learning. There is no end. You have a whole life. We keep learning. We can't afford to remain ignorant. The moment we commit to our spiritual life, it's over. Just make mistakes. Fall down, get up, keep doing, keep working. This indeed is that samatvam, equanimity in success and failure. This is also called yoga. It is that eternal love, unruffled equanimity under all circumstances, Desire the desire of him who is without desire. Do all your duties, but keep your mind on God, says Master, says Sri Ramakrishna, cultivating love for God. I think we worked on verse number 49 last class. Durena hyavaram karma, buddhi yoga dhananjaya, buddhau shranamandvicha, kripana palahetavaha. Work done with anxiety about results is far inferior to work done without such anxiety. In the calm of self-surrender, seek refuge in the knowledge of Brahman. They who work selfishly for results are miserable. Seek refuge in the knowledge of Brahman. In last class I put this question, what is the knowledge of Brahman? It sounds a little philosophical. I'm trying to break this so that it's, more familiar to us and natural. The knowledge of Brahman is?
Well, that's just one that I was very difficult with. It's beyond any kind of intellectual explanation or some kind of narrative. It's the best I can say, awe. And deep respect. Just
awe. Okay.
Awe.
That's nice.
This is metaphysical knowledge?
It's an intuitive knowledge. It's called oneness. There we are all one. It's the according to Vedanta, we call it Sat Chit Ananda, existence, absolute knowledge, absolute and bliss, absolute. But it's very known to us, since it is of the nature of awareness. And if I ask you, what are you? Doesn't know. Are you here? Are you listening? What are you?
Name and form.
Are you aware of what's happening here?
Yeah.
See? That awareness is who you are. So, and Sri Krishna is telling us to please to seek refuge in this knowledge. Karma performed in the equanimity of mind is more paying. For this, we have to develop that attitude called calmness, equanimity. It is a mental state. It is our mental attitude which makes the world what it is for us. Our thoughts make things beautiful. Our thoughts make things ugly. The whole world is in our own minds. Learn to see things in the proper light. There is a meaning behind everything. Sharanam aviccha. Sharanam aviccha. Take resort to, take shelter, buddho, under wisdom. You should resort to knowledge of the supreme goal, because those who undertake inferior actions, palahetavaha, who thirst for rewards, who are driven by results, are kripanaha, pitiable. Change the vision of who you are. Stop identifying yourself with this human body and all the labels you have put upon it. Vedanta says, Tat Tvam Asi. Tat Tvam Asi. Thou art that. Tat Tvam Asi. Simple. The whole message of Vedanta is in that formula. It's called Mahavakya. That's all. If we could only understand that, this moment, we would be free. Tattvamasi, thou art that, thou art the self, capital self. Therefore work, but not be attached. Remember, we talked about a few examples. We talked about someone who was carrying luggage, his own luggage, and there was this porter who immediately tried to help this gentleman to carry more luggage. But there is a difference. One is working without any motive, but the other one is working for the tip. Few work for love's sake, for a love that is born from God is a love that gives with the same reflex as that which causes a bird to sing or the heart to beat. The love that arises from God is a love that loves anonymously, a love that acts without self-centered reflections, that gives without thought. Suppose you go to a wealthy man every day, but you seek no favor of him. You simply love to see him. If he wants to show you favor, you say, "No, sir, I don't need anything. I just came to see you." Such is love of God for its own sake. You simply love God and don't want anything from him in return. For it has been said by the Lord, "Those who are constantly attached to me and worship me with love, I give that direction to their will by which they come to me." Why has he not taken us out? You do not want him. You want everything but him. The moment you want him, that moment you get him. We never want him. We say, "Lord, give me a fine house." We want the house, not him. Give me health. Save me from this difficulty. When a man wants nothing but him, he gets him. The same love which wealthy men have for gold and silver and possessions, Lord, may I have the same love for thee. I want neither earth nor heaven, nor beauty, nor learning. I do not want salvation. Let me go to hell again and again. But one thing I want, to love thee, and for love's sake, but even for heaven. So Sri Ramakrishna, he says in, you can find this in the Nectar of His Words. It was translated as the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. It's called Katamrita. That the only thing needed is Vyakulata. It's a Bengali word, Vyakulata. Vyakulata is longing. Longing from your heart, or of the heart. That's all we need. This is exactly what he's saying here. Verse number 50. Buddhi yukto jahatiha ube sukruta dushkrute tasmad yogaya yujyasva yoga karmasu kaushalam. In the calm self-surrender, you can free yourself from bondage of virtue and vice during this very life. In the calm or calmness of self-surrender, you can free yourself in this very life. Do you believe this? Is it possible? Well, somehow, somewhere, we have to start.
Yeah. How do you model this? Create for me a situation, a human like myself and many of us, we want that long, we'll accept that that's how we'll move to that state, where we're at one with Brahman. How do you see a person modeling that? You don't want to fabricate the longing. I long. I've been longing a long time. You don't want to fabricate. You don't want.
How do you do that?
You want an intimate.
Any suggestions?
Yeah.
Yeah. I have a practical example. I was having breakfast with my ex-wife yesterday.
Oops.
And she says, this is a 10-second story. She says angrily, "You never do anything for me." And in my mind, this is a cognitive distortion. But thanks to Vedanta, I'm able to say, in calmness, I can see by what you're saying, I could be more nurturing to you. And she starts to cry.
Yeah.
That's all I want.
That's beautiful. Somehow, we have to open up. We have to allow ourselves to open up. And in order to do that, there is, if you're asking me, nothing works best than prayer. Prayer, that communication with your inner self, with that inner voice. Just pray, keep praying. Sri Ramakrishna used to say, the solution for all these feathers, or all these shackles, is prayer. Keep praying. I know it sounds a little religious, but it is what it is.
For me, it's in chanting, which is another form of
Chanting is, yes.
Many songs.
Sometimes, yes, you open your heart. That is a very good point.
Yeah.
I mean, this is also Swadhyaya. Swadhyaya means chanting, study, anything that can, take you back to your source. In other words, that inspires you is valid. The chanting of the name of God. Sri Ramakrishna was a master in that. He was chanting the name of the Lord. Clap your hands whenever you are distressed or, out of obfuscation. Just clap your hands, and the birds will fly away.
Can I say something? There was this gentleman who talks about how to control the dogs on the television, Dog Whisperer. He has a concept that the dogs will not go back to the past, that very quickly can change their minds into the present. They went, so maybe that's the one.
I think in Vedanta we find that freedom. Each and every one of you should be able and should be empowered to customize your own ways. According to your own practices, your religion, you should be able to feel free to customize it. Anything that can take you back, to that inspiration, that is required, that is needed. I'm not going to take many questions, but yes.
I was just going to say, I think it's just learning to turn to Him.
Yes.
In the situations in all times. It's
Yes.
just turning to Him.
Yes.
Like you
At
said,
any cost.
constantly
I would
cleaning
say,
your heart.
at any cost. Even if you have to, lower your head a little bit, hey, I wish I knew better, or this much I could do. So you clean your heart, you see, and open the heart to God, to that freedom that is needed. So in the calm of self-surrender, you can free yourself. Devote yourself, therefore, to reaching union with Brahman, to unite the heart with Brahman, and then to act. Unite your heart, and then act from there. That is the secret of non-attachment. That is the secret of non-attached work. Again, endued with this evenness of mind, one frees oneself from the bondage of virtue and vice, to unite the heart with Brahman, and then to act. That is the secret of non-attachment. This is yoga. Yoga is the very dexterity of work. A healthy attitude is possible only when I start loving whatever I do. When I start loving whatever I do. Be therefore, says Swamiji, not a beggar. Be therefore not a beggar. Be unattached. This is the most terrible task of life. Even if our every attempt is a failure, and we bleed and are torn asunder, yet through all this we have to preserve our heart. We have to preserve our heart. We must assert our Godhead in the midst of all these difficulties. Nature wants us to react, to return blow for blow, cheating for cheating, lie for lie, and hit back with all our might. The other day I also quoted an example that Swamiji mentioned in one of his lectures. I think it's beautiful. It really depicts how we should live in this world. He talks about this actor that has been given the role of a beggar. And he compares this role, the role of an actor, with a real beggar. Do you remember those who were here? What's the difference?
For the beggar is the reality.
The beggar is the reality?
Yeah,
For the beggar.
For the beggar, it is the reality.
It is all he knows.
He knows.
So the actor, for any actor, I know, is there any actor present here? He knows it's just a role. He knows he's acting. But he also knows, because he's acting, he has to do the best he can. He has to be there in the acting. And again, he's enjoying it. He knows I'm not a beggar. I'm just playing the role of a beggar. Compared to the beggar, the real beggar, he doesn't know any better. He thinks and feels that that's his reality. So, do you see it? It's very subtle, I understand. He says, the scene perhaps the same in both cases. The words are perhaps the same, but yet, what a difference. The actor enjoys his beggary, while the other is suffering misery from it. And what makes this difference? The one is free, and the other is bound. The actor knows his beggary is not true, but that he has assumed it for play, while the real beggar thinks that it is his too familiar state, and that he has to bear with it, whether he wills it or not. Karma Yoga is all about learning, training ourselves to be the master, to be a good actor, and not to be a slave, like the beggar. As you can see, Karma Yoga is a way of life. It is, here we can see the perfect harmony of all these yogas combined together. Because there is something that we cannot stop, according to Sri Krishna. We can't stop doing, we can't stop thinking, we can't stop breathing, and that is karma. All we need is the right attitude. Our karma determines what we deserve and what we can assimilate. We are responsible for what we are and whatever we wish ourselves to be. We have the power to make ourselves. If what we are now has been the result of our own past actions, it certainly follows that whatever we wish to be in the future can be produced by our present actions. So we have to know how to act. You will say, what is the use of learning how to work? Everyone works in some way or other in this world, but there is such a thing as frittering away our energies. Karma Yoga, therefore, is the dexterity of work, because it not only robs work of its power to bind, but also transforms it into an efficient means to freedom. The Karma Yogi is not affected by karma of any kind. This is due to his being fixed in equanimity, the state free from likes and dislikes, attachment and aversion. I don't know if you have any relatives that are surgeons, or there is a rule that surgeons cannot operate or practice a surgery to someone very close to them, because there are risks. A surgeon cuts and operates on a body of a patient. The sick man surviving the surgery or dying to it does not make the doctor virtuous or vicious. He does his duty very well for duty's sake. He goes through the series of operations calmly because of his equanimity of mind. But this very doctor dare not operate on his own son. He seeks the help of another surgeon. This difference is born of attachment, leading to inequanimity of mind. Detached performance of duty adds to efficiency, and the required equilibrium is maintained perfectly. This principle applies to all activities in life. It is this yoga that maintains equilibrium in the midst of all activities. There is also this, I don't know if you ever read Karma Yoga. This is a story that is coming from the Mahabharata about this yogi who was sitting under a tree and meditating, and doing spiritual practices, and he developed powers. Suddenly, above him there were two birds, perching, and suddenly he was disturbed. He opened his eye, saw the bird, and his eye just turned the birds into ashes. And suddenly he realized, oh, I have become powerful yogi now. Let me just go and beg some food. So he went to this place, and knocked the door, and nobody answered the call. And so he thought to himself, how dare these people here inside here not to answer, my knocking of the door. And from inside he hears a woman saying, dear sir, I'm neither bird here, so please wait. And he was neither bird to be burned. So he was surprised and waited, and there came this woman who opened the door, and she said, and he was surprised and asked the woman, how did you know? And she said, well, I was just serving my husband. That's my duty. That's all I do. And by doing that, by performing my duties, I have developed this power of reading somebody else's mind. But I just, I'm not like you. I just do what I have to do. And by doing that, all these spiritual, how would I put it, natural, I wouldn't call them powers. I think it's natural to us. We just lost that spontaneity to connect with this sort of communication without the need of words. And so it goes, the story. But we should be able to find that equanimity even when we achieve something that makes us proud, or that is also a trick, even in our spiritual life. Who is a yogi? A yogi is seated in a Himalayan cave. A yogi seated in a Himalayan cave allows his mind to wander on unwanted things. A cobbler, in a corner at the crossing of several busy roads of a city, is absorbed in mending a shoe. As an act of service. Of these two, who is the real yogi? Why?
Because he's completely focused on his task.
Mm-hmm.
And he's doing it for work's sake.
Mm-hmm. So you said something that I really liked. He was immersed. In anything we do, we have to be there. We have to be immersed. That is a means to something we crave all the time. And when we have that, we have Him. That is the result of yoga. Concentration. Whatever I'm doing it now. And then you start enjoying it. Buddhi yuktaha means proper attitude, proper perspective. The result of this is chitta shuddhi. Chitta shuddhi is a Sanskrit word that means the purification of the mind. It is like cleaning the dirt of a piece of gold. And as a result, you start seeing things with the right eyes. You start experiencing inner peace. You start finding more and more interest in spiritual life, in self-knowledge. You will start making sense of the knowledge of Brahman. When you start seeing the benefits of this practice. For many, sometimes when you listen to this, the self, Brahman, you have to act, remembering the knowledge of Brahman. It sounds a little dry, and it's hard to reach, to grasp that. But by practicing, slowly we start understanding. When the mind becomes purer and purer, it starts making more and more sense. Karma Yoga prepares you to what we call Jnana Yoga, the yoga of knowledge. It dawns within you, and then you go like, now I see it. It sharpens your mind, your intellect, by having these aha moments. I get it now. But if there is no proper attitude towards your action, then it leads to more tension, more tightness. And what happens then? You get trapped in what we call samsara. Again, verse number 51. Now, in these verses here, we will start analyzing what happens with the karma yogi. What is this process of transformation? Remember that karma yoga leads you to freedom. I just share with you this, what happens with the karma yogi is this citta shuddhi, the purification of the mind. And now it will become clearer now in verse number 51 and 52. Karmacham buddhi yuktahi phalam tyaktva manishinaha janmabandha vinirmukta padam gacchantyanāmayam. In the calm of self-surrender again, in the calm of self-surrender, the seers, now, he doesn't call him the karma yogi anymore. He called him now, Sri Krishna says, the seers, renounce the fruits of their actions and so reach enlightenment. Then they are free from the bondage of rebirth and pass to that state which is beyond all evil. The wise, possessed of this evenness of mind, abandoning the fruits of their actions, free forever from the fetters of birth, go to that state which is beyond all evil. They know how to convert this binding karma into a liberating karma. This metamorphosis, this transformation is not by changing the action, but by changing the attitude. It's like using the cobra or the rattlesnake poison to make a medicine. Poison causes death, but if used properly, you could make medicine out of it and save someone's life. The tension and stress coming from not having the right attitude towards your actions and results could be compared to the poison of a snake. If not handled well, it could destroy you. You can refer to stress-related diseases. Those who learn to use the poison to their benefit purify their minds and attain immortality. In other words, the aid of the perishable phenomenon get at the imperishable phenomenon. What is that state which is beyond evil? The karma yogi has to go through different stages in order to achieve liberation or freedom. The first stage is buddhi yuktaha. Here in this verse, again, he brings up this word, this combination of these two words, buddhi yuktaha, which means proper attitude and proper perspective. One should have the proper attitude towards life and the various experiences coming with it. This attitude is born out of right discrimination, proper perspective, knowing that the spiritual growth is more paying than any type of growth, giving priority to your spiritual life. When we start finding meaning in our life, when we start appreciating genuineness in the transparency of living, when we start finding security in ourselves, when we start loving ourselves and caring for others as well, then and then only is when we start opening up to unselfishness, when we start expanding in a much more deeper level, when we start feeling for others. It's called a life based on dharma. Dharma is what is right. Becomes more and more important than the blind life, than the blind way of living. We finally find balance between our life, outer life, and our inner life. But we have to give priority to the spirit. The second aspect or stage that the karma yogi has to go through is the karma jam phalam tyaktua. Now, tyaktua means abandoning. You have to abandon the fruits of your actions, not giving over importance to material results by focusing on the priority of the inner growth. Manishinaha means by purifying the mind. The wise man, which is called Manishinaha, understands the true goal of life. Who am I? Why was I born? What is my life purpose? Why am I here? Who do I want to be? What are my values? What is the inner life? And develops a new attitude towards it. He or she experiences growth at a mental and emotional level, which is translated into a universal feeling, universal love, universal compassion, the capacity to share. With this, we attain an intellectual capacity that allows us to discover the answer to fundamental questions. Just mentioned a few. Who am I? What is this world? Is there any God? Who is that God? This karma yogi grows physically, emotionally, intellectually, and spiritually. Till it becomes a wise man, a yogi, and breaks the shackles of samsara. What are the shackles? We started Bhagavad Gita with this. Raga, attachment. Shokaha, sorrow. And moha, delusion. This inner freedom, the mental freedom while living, gives light to your life and turns your life into a more enjoyable one. In that state, the mind experiences joy, love, compassion, bliss. Let me just quote verse number 42. Yada te moha kalilam buddhir vetitarishyati tada gantasi nirvedam shrotavyasya shrutasya cha. When your intellect has cleared itself of all these delusions, you will become indifferent to the results of your actions. When the intellect, crossing beyond the taint of illusion, the identification of the self, capital self, with the non-self or ego, then thou shalt attain indifference regarding things heard or things yet to be heard. In other words, the present or future. So this is the result of the practicing of karma yoga. The result is that you start enjoying your life. Question?
So we got the karma yoga next Saturday. Is that correct?
Oh, thank you. So on the 13th, right? We have a karma yoga. We planned the karma yoga day. We invite everyone. There is spreadsheet. You can write your email address and your phone number. We will contact you. We will start at 9. We will have lunch together. We'll have, there is a lot of work to do, gardening, cleaning, cooking. So you're all welcome.
Around what time?
9 on Saturday, from 9 to maybe 1 from.
Not this Saturday,
Next.
Saturday after next.
They start, correct, the 13th. And any questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
When I finished this karma yoga, there were a couple of questions that came for me when he was talking about duty. So when he explained about the duty of the woman cooking, some nurses in the hospital, when he talks about the soldiers in every country or every culture's duty is a different definition. I was kind of not clear. So is it the soldier who is killing the people also they're doing the service, also they're playing the roles?
Well, if you choose to be a soldier, or if you don't, I mean, if you are pushed to be a soldier, because you are a citizen of a country, you belong to a particular country, your duty then is to fight for your country. You may say, well, I don't think it's fair, or, the war is not fair. Well, you're already into it. If you don't fight, they will kill you. It's a very, if you are a soldier, you have a duty as a soldier. If you are a mother, you have a duty as a mother. So, well, again, you see, I mean, you are going through the same problem that Arjuna was going through. For that, you missed the first part of the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, where Shri Krishna explained to Arjuna that in reality he's not killing anyone. I know it's the example sounds a little extreme because you're taking the life of somebody else, but I mean the example, right? I mean, this extreme example of being a soldier on a battlefield, I think it's such because we really need to understand how attached we are to the things we love, and in order to detach ourselves, we need to to be taken to those extremes cases.
Krishna was also specific that it is a righteous thing.
Yes, well, I did not. Yes.
War, I mean, you're a soldier. You have to be. Duty or not duty. You don't think you have. You still need. You can't.
Well, yeah. I mean, we don't. I didn't.
Righteousness. You know what I'm saying? It's like you can't justify it. It's my duty, even though I don't think it's righteous. It's my duty.
Well, I know a little. What happens is I didn't want to go there because we don't have enough time, and we talked about it. But what I wanted to point out is the example of a soldier is in a way the example of each and every one of us in whatever we are doing, in the social status that we are occupying, where we find ourselves, and that's our duty. That's our responsibility. I'm not going to go to justify whether it's a fair war or not. I'm not going to go there because there is no end. Certainly, in the case of the Bhagavad Gita, it was a fair war. We talked about it. We explained the reasons why. Now, to take this to the reality of the world today, and whether this war is fair or not, well, we need time.
Swami, when I think of soldier, I think of a protector. It doesn't have to be somebody that kills.
Yes, I mean, no, there is
that's what they do.
there is a lot to talk about. There is and one thing would lead to another. I think when you just said duty, I just wanted to focus there. What is duty? Duty is your responsibility in whatever position you find yourself.
May I add, like in my mind, I see the duty as being twofold. One's topical, like I could say have the duty of washing the dishes. But the other part of it is the attitude and perspective you bring to the dishes. If that makes some sense.
Yes, well, these two should match, right?
Yeah, they should.
Should go together. But yes, I mean, you are not the first one. I honestly, sometimes you have to understand that these examples are for the sake of understanding, our own situation. Certainly, if we start, debating, whether it's a right word or not, yes, I agree. I mean, there is no end.
He explained it very nicely in the book also that music in every culture is different. Like in some culture, to serve your parents is very
Uh-huh.
in some other culture, not service or others. So it was explaining, but for me, always this question comes.
Yeah. I hope, it was answered. Duty is your responsibility, but you also need to bear in mind where are the circumstances around you. Beauty is not the same for everyone or all over the world. The meaning is different, depending on the circumstances and the situation you find yourself in. Yes.
So I think that's when we discussed this part in duty was also in relation to Arjuna learning to accept the fact that he cannot change. So duty and accepting nature or the facts of nature, the things that cannot be changed, I think they were kind of related to one another.
Yes.
So
Well, yeah. Yes, the circumstances of the war could not be changed. The war was a fact. Again, basically, when she mentioned duty, we need to understand that it's our responsibility, as where we find ourselves, our social, in our society, in our family. Because if we don't have this the right attitude toward our responsibilities, then we miss the opportunity to practice yoga.
Devotion also be part of it. Our devotion into our
Everything you do should be done focused and with the right attitude.
Swami, I think for the sake of understanding the Bhagavad Gita and the context of it, one should know the divisions of society in India at that time. You had the Brahman, you had the priest class, and then of course you had the Kshatriya, who defended the Brahman because I'm sure they took a vow of non-violence. So someone who's taken a vow of non-violence can't defend themselves. So it should be up to the Kshatriya, to warrior class, to defend the righteous. So Arjuna's position is not really, in my mind, a war of nations. It's a war of religion and irreligion. And I think studying the pre-existing traditions in India up to the Bhagavad Gita really helps things to put things into context and to realize why Arjuna needs to fight.
We talked about this. We explained everything when we started these classes. Explain in detail. So we talked about the cultural, circumstances of the Mahabharata and etc. But again, we all have this in our hearts. It's a war. When it's a warfare, just because of oil interests or. I hope you understand your circumstances in your life and get the message of Sri Krishna and apply it in your life. That's what's important. That's what is duty is your responsibility towards what you are doing, what you have to do.
And as you mentioned today, you have to separate your duty or your work. You have to get detached from your work. So I think same thing applies to a soldier. So he's doing his duty, but then at the end of the day, he has to get detached from that duty or from that work.
There is a difference, right, between the two attitudes of someone who likes to be a soldier just because he likes to kill his enemy, and the other one, he wants to be a soldier because he's doing it for his family and his country. So it's our choice where we want to stand, you see. Whatever we do, if we do it for as many beneficiaries as possible, then it will definitely be good.
Any role we play, we have to follow them to match that role.
Correct. Yeah, we talked a lot about this. I mean, I like it, but it takes time. But we talked about it in the beginning. I don't know if these classes were recorded.
The first ones were recorded like in February, so we started in what?
No, if you are interested, we can bring it up next class again. We can talk about dharma and duty. But let me tell you, we will continue discussing and diving deep into this topic in chapter number 3. So if you are patient, when we start chapter 3.
Thank you, Swami.